Beethoven's tempo in the slow movement of his piano sonata Op.7. Typically after slow movement, a minuet or a scherzo follows. A minuet is a popular 17th century dance form that gradually evolved to a movement in a larger instrumental work, like string quartets, sonatas, and symphonies. With Haydn and Beethoven, a minuet was replaced by a scherzo, which was faster and often had humorous musical elements, appropriate for its literal meaning, joke. For this movement in Opus 7, Beethoven does not give us either of the title. I think it has both characteristics of a minuet and of a scherzo. I'll take you through the movement and show you what I mean and why I might even call it a hybrid. I hope that these ideas will help you play with more elegance and wit. The beginning bars are very much in the spirit of a minuet. The 8-bar phrase is well articulated, and the notes are moving in small steps and skips. Minuet literally means mini steps, and with the melodic profile here, you can imagine it accompanying delicate steps of a dancer. This is the scherzo from the previous sonata. As you can hear, it is quite different in character. To give you an idea of a minuet, let me play an early minuet from Opus 10 number 3. Marked dolce, this is more melodic and poised than the example that you just heard. I think you would agree that our movement is much closer in character to what you just heard, which Beethoven titles minuet, than the previous example, scherzo. But the initial elegance and balance do not carry on. After the first 8 bars of music, with the next 8 bars, Beethoven turns corners. We expect a nice cadence, but the unexpected turn of the harmony and the silence come as a surprise, which turns the phrase into more like a question. The repetition of the same fragment and the accents on the third beat here sound quite humorous, and I would say this is more of a scherzando character. If it was actually danced to, the dancer would be very confused by the unexpected silence and these accents. So Beethoven has effectively turned a minuet-like phrase into a scherzo-like phrase with the same musical material. And it's almost like Beethoven is playing a joke on the form of minuet itself. In the second part of the A section, we are back in the character of a minuet. And now we find a partner in the dance. The left hand begins and the right hand imitates. The theme is played in the minor mode, and this prefigures the trio section, the B section, which is in E flat minor. After a bar of silence, repeated notes lead us into a codetta-like section that also has a dance-like quality. And the upper and lower voices are moving together in rhythm. Both minuet and scherzo have the same ABA form. The A section is divided into 2 parts, and you're listening to the repeat right now. The B section is often called a trio. And this name, I actually just learned that it originated from the fact that it was often written for 3 instruments or voices. The name stuck, but obviously the convention didn't. After the trio section, you would go back to the beginning and repeat the whole A section. So this is a quite simple structure, and sometimes this ABA form is referred to as the ternary form. is a trio section in E-flat minor. It is dark and turbulent with fast-moving triplets and strong accents. Despite the contrast, in a movement in any classical work, the tempo should not change between sections, and you should feel the same pulse throughout the whole movement. The forceful accents that you hear in this trio section are different from sforzandi. When you have a sforzando, it is an accent within the dynamic of the phrase, so it is like an emphasis of a beat. Forte piano or fortissimo piano in this trio section is much more dramatic because it is an indication to play fortissimo and instantly drop to piano. This is the end of the trio section, and I think the transition to the A section is so simple but so perfect. It is like the thunder and storm clearing, and we are now back in the warmth of the E-flat major. This sounds like a new tune, but it bears close resemblance to a fragment of the main theme. And now you're back at the beginning, and your listeners already heard the same musical material several times. So, what can you do to make it still interesting? It does not really make much sense to do something radically different. Playing a completely different dynamic or adding or subtracting expressions from what Beethoven actually wrote would be to change things around just to sound different. Instead, think about showing something that could have been easily missed. The tenor line or the bass that was supporting the melody could also be brought out, or maybe you can make pianissimo even more intimate this time round. You can surprise yourself just by taking an extra nanosecond at rests and between notes, and you might shape the next phrase differently. These repeated notes can be played with more or less importance in comparison to the accompanying melodic fragments. And depending on the articulation and phrasing, you can highlight either a minuet or scherzo character. These are all a part of musical interpretation, which is meaningful to the overall form and structure. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you haven't already, I invite you to watch my videos on 2 previous movements. Please subscribe, and I'll be back with the 4th movement.